Ever wondered what people played before video games? Did knights and nobles really just sit around polishing armor all day? The medieval period, spanning roughly from the 5th to the 15th century, wasn't all plagues and crusades. People needed entertainment too. Behind castle walls and in village squares across Europe, the Middle Ages buzzed with competitive energy as people gathered around boards carved from wood to play games that have largely disappeared from our modern consciousness. Yet these games reveal so much about medieval society, and surprisingly, many are still totally playable today. Number 8. Quirk, the checker's grandfather. Have you ever played checkers? Then you've experienced a watered-down version of Quirk. This ancient game originated in the Middle East but spread throughout medieval Europe like wildfire after the Moorish conquest of Spain. Imagine yourself as a 12th century merchant, stopping at an inn after a long day's journey. The innkeeper offers you a drink and points to a wooden board where locals are engaged in fierce concentration, moving pieces across intersecting lines. Quirk was played on a board with 5 lines in each direction, creating a grid of 25 points. Players started with 12 pieces each, placed on opposite sides of the board. The goal: capture all your opponent's pieces by jumping over them. Sound familiar? That's because modern checkers evolved directly from this medieval brain bender. The game became so popular in medieval Spain that Alfonso X, known as Alfonso the Wise, included detailed instructions for Quirk in his famous 13th century manuscript, Libro de los Jugos, Book of Games. This beautifully illustrated tome shows nobles and commoners alike hunched over Quirk boards, their faces tense with concentration. One particularly striking illustration shows a Muslim and Christian player facing off, a rare peaceful interaction in otherwise troubled times. Archaeologists have uncovered Quirk boards carved into cloister seats and cathedral benches throughout Europe, suggesting that even monks and church officials couldn't resist a quick game. Imagine a serious-faced monk supposedly contemplating scripture, secretly planning his next Quirk move instead. To play Quirk today, you need only a simple board and 24 counters. The rules are straightforward enough for children but offer strategic depth that could keep you entertained for hours. Unlike modern checkers, pieces in Quirk move along lines rather than squares, creating a different tactical experience that feels both ancient and refreshingly new. Number 7. Fox and Geese, the uneven matchup. Have you ever rooted for the underdog? Fox and Geese might be the ultimate underdog game. This asymmetrical hunt game pits one player, the fox, against multiple opponents, the geese. Dating back to at least the 14th century, fox and geese boards have been found carved into cloister seats at Gloucester Cathedral and scratched into stone at Canterbury, suggesting that even the holiest of medieval folk enjoyed a good predator-prey showdown. Picture this: a winter evening in a Nordic hall, firelight flickering as warriors who had spent the day training with swords now exercised their minds. One player controls a single fox piece while the other maneuvers 13 geese. The fox tries to capture the geese by jumping over them, while the geese attempt to corner the fox and prevent it from moving. This game reflected the harsh realities of medieval life, where predator-prey relationships were well understood by a population that lived close to nature. The uneven match mirrored many medieval social structures, one powerful individual against the masses, perhaps explaining why it resonated so deeply with people of that era. Fox and Geese became so beloved that variations spread across Europe. The English version typically used a cross-shaped board, while Scandinavian variants often employed a diamond pattern. In some versions, the fox could only move forward initially, gaining the ability to move backward only after capturing its first goose, a rule that gave the geese a fighting chance. What makes this game particularly fascinating is its perfect balance. Despite the uneven numbers, a skilled fox player and a coordinated geese player have roughly equal chances of winning. This delicate equilibrium was achieved through centuries of play and rule refinements, medieval game design at its finest. Today, Fox and Geese offers a refreshing alternative to symmetrical games where players start on equal footing. All you need is a board which can be drawn on paper and pieces to represent the fox and geese. The game teaches valuable lessons about cooperation, resource management, and how the weak can overcome the strong through smart coordination lessons as relevant today as they were 700 years ago. Number 6. Tablut, the Viking Battle Simulator. Ever wanted to be a Viking king fighting for survival? What if a board game could capture the drama of a last stand? Tablut, a game from the Sami people of Lapland Lature adopted by Vikings, does exactly that. This fascinating game simulates a king trying to escape from a besieged fortress, surrounded by enemies on all sides. Travelers to Scandinavia in the medieval period wrote of strange board games played by locals that mimicked real battle scenarios. In 1732, Carl Linnaeus, better known for creating our system of biological classification, documented the rules of Tablut during his expedition to Lapland, preserving this medieval pastime for future generations. The game's setup is striking. One player controls a king and 8 defenders, typically white pieces, while the other commands 16 attackers, dark pieces. The king starts in the center of the board, his castle, surrounded by his loyal guards. The attackers lurk at the edges, closing in from all 4 sides. The defenders win if the king escapes to any edge of the board. The attackers win by capturing the king. Tablet boards varied in complexity, but most featured a 9x9 grid with marked spaces indicating the castle and sometimes hostile squares where only attacking pieces could pause. Pieces move like rooks in chess, any number of spaces horizontally or vertically, and captures occur by sandwiching enemy pieces between 2 of your own, except for the king, who must be surrounded on all 4 sides. This game likely served as both entertainment and strategic training for Nordic warriors. The defensive player learns to create escape routes and protect their leader, while the attacker practices encirclement tactics. Excavations of Viking settlements have revealed bone-playing pieces and fragmentary boards that archaeologists believe were used for tablet or similar games in the Tafel family. What makes Tablet particularly interesting is how it reflects the historical realities of the Nordic people. Unlike chess, which evolved in societies with rigid class hierarchies, Tablet came from cultures where kings led from the front lines and fought alongside their men. The game's mechanics, where the king is powerful but vulnerable, perfectly capture this cultural perspective. To play Tablet today, you need a 9x9 board and 2 sets of different colored pieces, 24 in total. The asymmetrical nature of the game ensures that each playthrough feels different, and you'll find yourself switching strategies based on whether you're attacking or defending. For those tired of perfectly balanced modern games, Tablet offers an intriguing glimpse into a medieval mind that understood that real-life conflicts are rarely fair. Number 5. Tables, Backgammon's rowdy ancestor. Did you know that knights and ladies were rolling dice long before Vegas existed? Have you ever imagined a medieval tavern erupting in cheers and groans over a game of chance? Tables, the medieval precursor to modern backgammon, was so popular that it sparked gambling crazes and even prompted royal bans. Tables boards have been unearthed throughout Europe, from humble wooden versions used by commoners to elaborately decorated sets owned by nobility. One particularly magnificent example belonged to Alfonso X of Castile, featuring inlaid precious stones and intricate Islamic-inspired patterns, a testament to the cultural fusion that characterized medieval Spain. The game involved moving pieces around a board according to dice rolls, with players racing to bear their pieces off the board while blocking their opponent. Sound familiar? The core mechanics have survived for almost 1,000 years, though medieval variants included numerous rule variations that have since disappeared. Tables was especially beloved by the nobility, who had leisure time for games and money to wager. Historical records tell us that Richard the Lionheart lost a fortune playing tables during the Crusades. His brother, the infamous King John, the villain from Robin Hood stories, reportedly played tables when he should have been attending to matters of state, perhaps explaining some of his unpopularity. But tables wasn't just for the elite. Archaeological findings suggest that simplified versions were played by all social classes. Tavern keepers provided boards for patrons, taking a cut of the gambling action in a medieval version of today's casino business model. The game created a rare social space where merchants might play against nobles, albeit usually with strict limits on bet sizes that reflected the social hierarchy. The church took a dim view of tables due to its association with gambling. Several medieval church councils attempted to forbid clergy from playing, though the frequency of these prohibitions suggests they weren't very effective. Carved tables boards have even been found hidden in monastery cloisters, evidence that even devoted monks couldn't resist the game's appeal. What made tables so addictively playable was its perfect balance of luck and skill. Dice introduced an element of chance that gave novices hope against experts, while strategic blocking and timing decisions rewarded experienced players. This combination made it accessible yet endlessly challenging, a formula that explains why its descendant, backgammon, remains popular today. To experience tables as medieval players would have, use a backgammon set but consult online resources for authentic medieval rule variations. Some versions used 3 dice instead of 2, while others had different starting arrangements or special moves. Each regional variant offers a slightly different gaming experience, providing a window into how medieval cultures adapted and modified games to suit local preferences. Number 4, Nine Men's Morris, the strategic gridlock. Ever felt like you were going in circles with an opponent? What if that was exactly the point? Nine Men's Morris, one of the most enduring board games in human history, captivated medieval minds with its deceptive simplicity and tactical depth. This game of aligned pieces and careful captures dominated medieval Europe for centuries, played by everyone from peasants to kings. The game board for Nine Men's Morris consists of 3 concentric squares connected by lines at the midpoints of each side, creating 24 intersections. Players take turns placing their 9 pieces on these points, attempting to form mills, 3 pieces in a straight line which allow them to remove an opponent's piece. After all pieces are placed, players slide them along the lines, still trying to form mills and capture enemy pieces. The goal: reduce your opponent to just 2 pieces or block them from making legal moves. Nine Men's Morris boards appear everywhere in medieval contexts, scratched into cathedral seating, carved into cloister stones, and etched into tavern tables. A particularly well-preserved board was found at the medieval monastery of Gloucester Cathedral, suggesting even monks sought strategic diversion between prayers. The game's ubiquity across different social classes points to its universal appeal. What makes Nine Men's Morris particularly notable is its mathematical elegance. Computer analysis has revealed that with perfect play, the game should always end in a draw, a balance that medieval players seem to intuitively understand despite lacking formal game theory. This perfect equilibrium might explain why the game remained popular for so long without major rule changes. Archaeological evidence suggests Nine Men's Morris traveled to Europe from the Roman Empire, but it flourished during the Middle Ages like never before. The Vikings were particularly fond of the game, with numerous boards found in Norse settlements. Some scholars believe the game's 3-in-a-row objective might have had religious significance in cultures that valued trinities. The game became so widespread that regional variations developed. 7 Men's Morris used a smaller board and fewer pieces, making for a quicker game. 12 Men's Morris expanded the board and added pieces for a more complex experience. These variations allowed the game to be adapted to different contexts. A quick 7 Men's Morris game might fill a short break from labor, while the 12-piece version could occupy an entire leisurely evening. Despite its ancient origins, Nine Men's Morris feels remarkably modern in its streamlined design. No dice or elements of chance determine the outcome, just pure strategy and outthinking your opponent. This cerebral quality made it particularly respected among medieval intellectuals, who saw skill at board games as evidence of a keen mind. To play Nine Men's Morris today, you need only a simple board, easily drawn on paper, and 2 sets of different colored pieces. The rules can be learned in minutes, but mastering the game's subtleties might take a lifetime, just as it did for those medieval players whose worn game boards survive as testament to their strategic obsession. Number 3. Gluckshaus, the medieval party game. Have you ever been to a party where everyone ends up crowded around a game of chance? What if medieval taverns rocked with the same energy? Gluckshaus House of Fortune was the medieval equivalent of a party game, simple enough to play while drinking ale, yet engaging enough to keep a tavern entertained for hours. This dice game originated in Germany around the 15th century, but spread throughout Europe as merchants and travelers carried small game boards in their pockets. Unlike the strategic depth of chess or tables, Gluckshaus offered straightforward gambling excitement that required little concentration, perfect for social settings where conversation flowed as freely as the beverages. The game used a simple board with spaces numbered 2 through 12, corresponding to all possible rolls of 2 dice. Players took turns rolling, placing coins on the number they rolled or collecting coins from that space according to specific rules. Certain numbers had special properties. Rolling a 7 allowed you to collect all coins from the house space, while rolling a 2, the pig, often meant paying a penalty. Medieval artwork depicts Gluckshaus being played in taverns by all sorts of characters: merchants, soldiers, craftsmen, and occasionally ladies, though gambling was often considered inappropriate for women in medieval society. One 15th-century German woodcut shows a lively tavern scene where a Gluckshaus game has devolved into a brawl, with one player accusing another of cheating. Some aspects of gaming culture apparently haven't changed much. What made Gluckshaus particularly appealing in medieval society was its accessibility. Unlike chess, which required literacy in its strategies and piece movements, or tables, which demanded expensive equipment, Gluckshaus could be played on a simple board drawn in chalk, with any small objects as markers. This democratized gaming, making it available even to the poorest peasants. The church predictably condemned Gluckshaus as sinful gambling, but its popularity proved unstoppable. Some clever tavern owners created virtuous versions with religious imagery replacing the numbers, allowing patrons to claim they were engaged in pious recreation rather than gambling. These modified boards represent an early example of gaming subverting social restrictions. Archaeologists have discovered Gluckshaus boards painted on tavern tables and carved into wooden benches throughout Germany and neighboring countries. The variety of these findings suggests the game crossed social boundaries, played by city dwellers and rural folk alike. Some boards feature elaborate decorations, while others are simple grids, evidence that the game adapted to different economic circumstances. To experience Gluckshaus today, all you need are 2 dice, a simple numbered board, and coins or tokens to use as stakes. The rules can be explained in under a minute, making it perfect for introducing non-gamers to historical recreation. Playing Gluckshaus connects you directly with medieval tavern culture. The laughter, groans, and exclamations of luck good and bad that echoed through wooden halls centuries ago. Number 2. Chess, not your modern game. Think you know chess? Are you picturing the same game played at championship tournaments today? Medieval chess would seem alien even to today's grandmasters. This wasn't just a different time for chess, it was practically a different game altogether. Chess arrived in Europe around the 9th century through Islamic Spain and the Byzantine Empire, but it underwent dramatic transformations as it integrated into medieval European culture. The pieces we recognize today had very different movements and appearances. The queen, originally the vizier from Persian chess, was one of the weakest pieces, able to move only 1 square diagonally. The bishop, then called the ulfil or elephant, could only move exactly 2 squares diagonally, jumping over the intervening square. These limitations made medieval chess a much slower, more methodical game than its modern counterpart. Games could last days, with pieces gradually maneuvering into position for decisive strikes. This slower pace suited medieval noble culture, where demonstrations of patience and forethought were valued over quick thinking. The physical chess sets of the medieval period were often spectacular works of art. The famous Lewis chessmen, carved from walrus ivory in the 12th century and discovered in Scotland, show pieces as miniature throne chairs, mounted knights and bishops with mitres. These distinctly European adaptations transformed the abstract Islamic pieces into recognizable figures from medieval society. Chess became a metaphor for medieval social structure, with pieces representing different classes: king, clergy, bishop, nobility, knight, military rook, often depicted as a castle tower, and peasants, pawns. This mirroring of society gave chess special significance beyond mere entertainment. When Eleanor of Aquitaine gave a chess set to her husband Henry II of England, she wasn't just providing a game but a symbolic representation of the kingdom they ruled together. Learning chess became an essential part of noble education, alongside hunting and swordplay. Medieval literature frequently references chess as a marker of intelligence and breeding. In numerous romances, knights demonstrate their worthiness through chess skill, sometimes playing for incredibly high stakes. One popular story involved Charlemagne's daughter challenging suitors to chess matches, with marriage as the prize for victory and beheading as the penalty for defeat. Surviving medieval chess manuals reveal the rich strategic thinking of the period. The most famous, Libro de los Jugos, commissioned by Alfonso X of Castile in 1283, contains increasingly complex chess problems that would challenge even modern players. These manuals often included chess problems that were believed to have mystical significance, with solutions revealing cosmic truths, chess as philosophy rather than mere recreation. If you want to experience medieval chess, several historical organizations have reconstructed the rules. Playing with these original movements creates a fascinating alternative chess experience, one that rewards different skills and strategies than the modern game. The slower pace and limited piece mobility might seem frustrating at first, but soon reveals its own strategic depths. Number 1. Rhythmatia, the Philosopher's Game. Have you ever thought board games weren't intellectual enough? Would you believe medieval scholars played a board game so complex it required understanding Pythagorean number theory? Rhythmatia, the Philosopher's Game, stands as perhaps the most intellectually demanding board game ever created, a mathematical battlefield that challenged the greatest minds of medieval Europe. Unlike the other games on this list, Rhythmatia wasn't played in taverns or castle halls by ordinary folk. This was the exclusive domain of university scholars and intellectuals. Emerging around the 11th century in monastery schools, Rhythmatia was specifically designed to teach and reinforce Boethian number theory, a mathematical framework that dominated medieval education. The game was played on an expanded chess board 816 with pieces bearing specific numbers. Players moved these pieces according to their mathematical properties, capturing opponents' pieces through arithmetic operations. A simple capture might involve a piece landing on a space occupied by an opponent's piece whose value it matched. More complex captures required forming geometric or arithmetic sequences with multiple pieces. Victory in Rhythmatia wasn't achieved by eliminating all enemy pieces, though that was one path to winning. Instead, players strived for victory of triumph, which involved arranging captured pieces into specific mathematical patterns, arithmetic, geometric, or harmonic progressions. The most prestigious win, the Victory of Honor, required assembling a precise arrangement of numbers that demonstrated harmony between different mathematical principles. The complexity of Rhythmatia served a pedagogical purpose. Medieval educators believed that mastering this game helped students internalize mathematical concepts through practical application. Surviving manuscripts describe Rhythmatia as not merely recreation, but a serious educational tool that strengthened the mind. Thomas More, in his Utopia, listed Rhythmatia among the worthy intellectual pursuits of his ideal society. What makes Rhythmatia particularly fascinating is how it reflects medieval ways of thinking. To the medieval scholar, mathematics wasn't just about calculation but revealed divine harmony in creation. The game's emphasis on finding patterns and progressions mirrored the medieval belief that understanding numbers was a path to understanding God's design for the universe. The game's popularity peaked in the 15th and 16th centuries, with multiple treatises published explaining its rules and mathematical foundations. As the scientific revolution transformed European thinking, Rhythmatia gradually disappeared. The new sciences favored experimental methods over the pure numerical relationships that Rhythmatia celebrated. By the 18th century, this once prestigious game had faded into obscurity. Reconstructing Rhythmatia today requires dedication. The rules are significantly more complex than any modern board game. Yet for those with mathematical inclination, it offers a unique window into medieval intellectual culture. Playing even a simplified version reveals how differently medieval scholars approached both games and mathematics, seeking harmony and beauty in numerical relationships rather than mere calculation. Are these forgotten games destined to remain historical curiosities, or could they find new life in our board game renaissance? Could your next game night feature a millennium-old contest of strategic skill? Perhaps in rediscovering these medieval pastimes, we might find they still have something to teach us about strategy, chance, and the human desire for play that connects us across the centuries. What ancient game will you try first?